There's a lot of talk online about the way the government's handling of the Grooming Gang Inquiry is going. So I thought I'd contact Maggie. I'm friends with her. So I contacted her in WhatsApp. She's busy, obviously. She's always doing stuff. And she said it's appalling what's gone on. Sorry about that. I'm using a new machine and I'm not used to it. We talked about it for a bit and then she sent me an article she's written in the Daily Mail. I'll read you the headline. The secretive and corrupt strategy behind the grooming gangs probe by the government is designed to conceal the truth yet again. Maggie Oliver. Now, who's the one with all the experience in this? Who's the one that risked a career at the time? 13 years digging into this stuff. Maggie Oliver. The grooming gang scandal, this is her words, in the Mail, is one of the darkest episodes in modern British history. What has rightly outraged the public is not just the scale of the abuse by predatory gangs of often Pakistani Muslim men in towns across England, but also the systematic cover-up by the very institutions whose duty it is to protect our children. I'm sickened. The inversion of morality and greater priority was given to upholding the ideology of diversity than the safeguarding of child victims of abuse. I think I agree with that. When the conspiracy of silence was finally broken by campaigners like myself, a notable few journalists shining the spotlight on the web of exploitation, collusion and deception, the shaken establishment promised to get to the truth, amid pledges that survivors would finally be healed. But I have been fighting this battle for 13 long years and the wheels of justice have become bogged down in a quagmire of obstruction, bureaucracy, lies and obfuscation. Shamefully, more than a decade after the Tory government first declared that there would be a thorough investigation, Tories, into the grooming gang saga, survivors and the public are still waiting for meaningful action. Nothing's happened. This mood is paralysed. The paralysis extends to the proposed inquiry which Keir Starmer was forced to announce earlier this year. It has to date not held one single meeting, and that's more than 4 months on. They haven't had a meeting yet. The air of crisis was reinforced by a flood of departures this week led by Annie Hudson, the former Director of Children's Services in Lambeth, who said after the negative coverage she no longer wanted to be considered for the post of Inquiry Chairman. I know who I think who should be on the post for the inquiry anyway. Growing disillusions also saw 3 abuse survivors I know, Fiona Goddard, Ellie Ann Reynolds and a woman whose name is only Elizabeth, resign from the panel created to help shape the inquiry. Ellie Ann said it had become more about cover-ups, while Fiona said the panel members were subjected to condescending and controlling language. They had other grievances. One was that the scope of the inquiry was being cynically widened to dilute the focus on grooming gangs, especially ethnicity. The other that was severely proposed was that candidates for the past and present for the chairman came from the police and social services, organisations which bore much of the responsibility for the original scandal. I fully agree with the stance, survivors' voices and voices like mine, that of Harriet Wistrich of the Centre for Women's Justice and Parents Against Child Exploitation are all being silenced. A total whitewash, in all honesty. I am not surprised. Having worked as a detective for 16 years in the Greater Manchester Police, I always had grave doubts that these promises of honesty and transparency would be fulfilled. In my work dealing with the activities of an abuse ring in Rochdale and sexual exploitations in Manchester, followed by 6 years dealing with cases with my charity, the Maggie Oliver Foundation, I have repeatedly witnessed firsthand how the impulse to conceal runs deep in the police, social services, the Crown Prosecution Service, judiciary and government itself. So we're no further, are we? Just a bag full of promises and Jess Phillips's outburst in Parliament, which was just all about her. I'm this, I'm that. I haven't done this. No council will control me. Why haven't you had a bloody meeting, you lot? Maggie Oliver's telling you what's wrong. I don't think there's one person listening to this would think that the best person to chair the inquiry will be the woman with all the experience trying to get the inquiry out there in the first place. Surely that would make sense. Maggie Oliver is the woman that you should be having. Maggie Oliver has more experience in this, and not only that, with the care and attention that should be given in safeguarding towards the survivors. I rest my case. Make of it what you will. Get on the pages of these MPs' threads on Facebook and Twitter and tell them what you think about them, politely but firmly, that you want some justice for this crime that's been ignored